Mike Perlack here to entertain you with the help of David Cronenberg's. Actually, I feel like I gypped my audience on that less than 3 minute film reflection video, David Cronenberg's The Fly. So I'm going to do a longer, talk a little more about it. So this will be Mike Peace Film Reflection, David Cronenberg's The Fly, Part 2. Yeah, I feel like I gypped my audience with that. The video wasn't even 3 minutes long, and I feel like I gypped my audience. And when I watch a film, especially a good film, I'm usually still thinking about it and analyzing it the next day, or a couple days, And that's definitely the case with this one. And so I wanted to make a video giving further my film reflection. I call it Mike Peace Film Reflection for a reason. I have no desire to be a film critic. That's why these videos are called Mike Peace Film Reflection, etc., etc. You could make the argument that the Grena Davis character, maybe out of honest-to-God love, but you could say her character corrupted the Jeff Goldblum character. Now, let's face it, only God's love is pure. At least that's what I've come to learn anyways, in real life too. But think about it. This character, Jeff Goldblum's character, he's going along just fine. He's kind of nerdy. It's indicated in the film that his lack of he has little knowledge of the flesh, and this is part of his mental block with trying to communicate that to the computer, trying to communicate the flesh to the computer. And this is somehow something that the Grena Davis character does help him with, apparently. But the guy was going along just fine. A little nerdy, neurotic. Probably a non-drinker, non-smoker, non-drug user like me. But he was happy with himself. The company didn't bug him, pun intended. The company he worked for didn't really bug him because he was cheap. He worked cheap for him, with the scientific work he was working on. But she corrupted him. It was her influence that put him, in the drunken state. So he was not careful like he normally is. And that fly got in the pod with him, which marked the start and the cause of his downfall. But, awesome dialogue. I always was impressed with the dialogue in this flick. I especially like the thing about after he's already, mutating and everything, and he talks about insect politics. He even says that I was an insect who dreamt he was human and loved it, but the dream is over now. But insect politics, there is no politics, no compromise, no compassion. Ruthless, the insect nature is a ruthless nature. And that's right before then he turned around and the good in him that is still Seth Brundle versus Brundlefly. But the good in him that is still Seth Brundle says to Grena Davis's character, "Don't come back. I might hurt you." It's a lot of back and forth between the good that is Seth Brundle and what he's becoming, this Brundlefly. But going back a little bit, when he's still Seth Brundle and the incident first happens and he's feeling high, being able to, do flips and everything. He's like, and he gets frustrated then with the Grena Davis character because he doesn't want to be alone in this. He doesn't want to be alone in this newfound awesomeness that he's feeling. If you can't keep up with me, if you're jealous, and one of my favorite lines in there, if you don't want to be a part of the dynamic couple duel, I'll find someone else. But at that point in the story, I want to agree with the Seth character at that point. I mean, he's flying high. Oh, he's putting a little too much sugar in his coffee at that point. But we'll overlook that for right now. But this is a pretty awesome God complex story. Those make the best parables, don't you think? But basically, the rest of this film basically is basically an intellectual war between Seth Brundle and Brundlefly. He has to be going insane. The part of him that is still Seth Brundle inside this creature that he's becoming, he's got to be going insane. But there's an intellectual war for the remainder of this film between Seth Brundle and Brundlefly, all the way to the climax, the end of the story, where the goodness that is or was Seth Brundle, now in this monstrosity physical form, realizes the only solution to all this, no matter who or what is to blame, a concept that I personally am convinced does not compute in a female brain. The jury's still out on that, but he figures out the solution. The only solution at this point is that he needs to cease to exist in the physical world, in the sense of existence. The good in him that is still Seth Brundle has to the only way he can overcome what he's become, Brundlefly, is to acknowledge that he must cease to exist. And that's why, with his last, after the merge between one of the pods and what's left of him, somehow I didn't get that until this last time I watched it. That it was actually, that last moment, it was actually a fusion between Brundlefly and the other pod, and one of the pods. That's why all the wiring, hoses and stuff are hanging off his back end when he's crawling out of it. But for some reason, I didn't get that part until this last time that I watched it. But yeah, but that's why he takes the head of the shotgun, holds it to what's left of his, what we can only assume is the position of his brain. The Seth Brundle and Brundlefly's fused brain, and basically prompts the Rena Davis character to put him out of his misery. Now, spoiler alert, in case you ever do want to see the movie and learn for yourself, the alternative ending involving, it's a butterfly ending. I guess this was supposed to be a softer ending to the story, a more hopeful ending, hope for something better. It's suggested in this ending that Greta Davis's character has a dream, I guess, that makes her decide to keep the baby, and dreams that the baby is like a human butterfly, kind of almost like an angelic in nature, a human being with butterfly wings, which was an intriguing idea. In 1986, it's probably best that they went with the ending they did, but this is actually pretty common. I'm learning a lot of movies, especially from the 80s, that have alternative endings that nobody ever really knew about. But it is kind of nice that you get to see this stuff. I think it's cool that you get to see this stuff on the DVDs now. And with that, I'm just going to end this video with a brief word on good intentions in real life and in fiction. They're not without flaws. That goes for anything human-made or made with human hands. And there's a reason for this, I think. I think it's because this world disregards God when God's an inconvenience to their human want. Another thing that this made me think of, this film made me think of, The Fly, was Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park, where he says, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop and think if they should. And then that in turn makes me think of the 1964 movie, The Time Machine, starring Rod Taylor, especially the part of the beginning of the beginning of the movie, which I actually found boring as a child. I'm not gonna lie, where he's talking to his colleagues about his invention, the time machine, and they're saying, "Oh, did you ever stop and consider the monetary implications of something, a time machine? What would you do with it? Who would buy it?" I just love Rod Taylor's reaction to this. No, I really haven't. Anyways, that's that. Yeah, good intentions. Good intentions. Good things have happened from good intentions, and horrific things have come to pass on account of good intentions. Careful what you wish for, kids. Mike Perlak, thank you for your time.